Mix with the Masters is arguably the most premium mixing service that exists on the internet, with a bunch of experts mixing top tracks. I decided to purchase a year's subscription of Mix with the Masters, and here are my thoughts, including the pros and cons of getting a Mix with the Masters subscription in this video. Cover 3 pros, 3 cons, and then sort of a mixed bag with having the year subscription to Mix with the Masters. So if you're interested in getting it for yourself, getting it for someone else, whatever it happens to be, this video is going to be good for you, as I'm going to give you some insight into what you get with Mix with the Masters, what my experience has been, and is it as useful as the price tag suggest. I'm going to give you that whole entire breakdown in this video. Before that, if you've had Mix with the Masters before, or you currently have it, leave a comment down below. Do you like the service? Do you keep buying it year after year, or do you have some problems with it? I would like to hear your thoughts in a comment, maybe help some other people out as well who are looking into the service so they can make the best decision for their music career. The first pro of having a Mix with the Masters subscription is access and breakdowns to some of the most top songs in many different genres. You get Green Day, Carrie Underwood, Adele, some of the most top artists in their respective fields, and it's awesome to see some insights into the tracks, including like the individual multi-tracks when the engineers solo them. It's just really nice to hear what these raw tracks from recording day sound like in these different mix sessions. I also enjoyed it a lot because I do happen to like a lot of these artists, and it's just fun to kind of go in and dive in and see how these songs are produced, how they're set up, what is the session like when the mix engineer finally gets it. It's a really nice insight, and I think it adds a lot to the service, and it's kind of unlike anything else that's out there. I mean, I know there's some other services like Nail the Mix, and I'm sure there's other ones that get pro multi-tracks where you get to mix them and take a look at them, but with Mix of the Masters, we're really getting popular songs, hit songs that are topping charts, and it's just really valuable if you're a producer or mix engineer in your home studio to get a conception of what tracks need to sound like before they even hit the mixing stage. I just think that's just incredibly valuable, and I've really enjoyed learning about some of my favorite songs through Mix with the Masters. The second pro of having a service like Mix with the Masters is you get some amazing insight on the processes of some of the top mixing engineers in the entire world. There's a massive list of mix engineers and producers on Mix with the Masters, and you get to see their entire process for the most part. And it's not just mixing, you get mastering and producing with Mix with the Masters, which is pretty cool because it had some producers like Jack Antonoff, who I absolutely love. They've got some breakdowns of his on Mix with the Masters. They've got some mastering stuff of like Billie Eilish and pop tracks, as well as my favorite all-time mix engineer, Chris Lord-Alge. They have a ton of his own mix breakdowns. I've learned a lot from watching those videos. You get an insight on their process, on how they set up tracks, how they route things, what their approaches are to different instruments and different songs, and even what their specifications are for certain artists and how they boil down and break down their mix. This is just incredibly valuable. You get a lot of great information here, and Mix with the Masters does a good job at providing captions for you, or even giving some descriptions of what the mix engineer is doing. Even if they're not describing it verbally, they'll tell you something like he's applying a boost to the 4K shelf on the SSL, or he's using compressor on this sort of ratio. So if the mix engineer isn't verbalizing it, usually in the Mix with the Masters video, they'll tell you what the mix engineer is doing. So you get walked through every part of the process, so you get to actually learn how a My Chemical Romance kick drum is processed, or how a Carrie Underwood vocal is compressed. You get that inside knowledge there in the video itself, what the gear they're using is, and what is going through the headspace of the mix engineer as he's doing it. What's really nice as well, there's a lot of different mix engineers on Mix with the Masters, so you get exposed to a variety of approaches, not just one mix engineer's approach, but many approaches. And so you get to kind of boil it all together, take what you like from each of them and apply it to your own mixes. And I've definitely seen some improvement on some more nuances of my mixing approach when it comes to volume automation or setting up my sessions that I've really applied from Mix with the Masters, and it's helped out my mixes a lot. What's really nice is these mix engineers are experienced into some of the top guys and girls in the entire industry. And so you know you're getting reliable material. You know you're getting the roadmap to an amazing sounding mix because these guys are pros. They've mixed so many records. So you know you're getting reliable information. You don't have to question it when you're getting information from someone on the internet or someone with not as much experience. You know you're going to be in good hands with a Mix with the Masters situation. And then the third benefit of having a Mix with the Masters subscription is you get a large catalog of videos. There are a lot of mixing breakdowns. I haven't even gotten through probably 10-20% of them, and I've spent a lot of time watching Mix with the Masters stuff, but there's something for everyone there. They've got pop mixes like Adele, Rolling in the Deep was one of them I've been watching recently. They've got pop punk mixes, they've got rock mixes, some heavy rock mixes. They have basically everything for everybody. Mastering stuff if you're a mastering engineer. They've got hip hop stuff if you're a hip hop producer. So you don't necessarily have to be into every genre. There's enough there if you're just into a couple different genres. There's a whole bunch of different breakdowns, and the catalog is diverse. Because I like learning how to mix and produce a bunch bunch of different genres. That's why I have my Match the Sound series on my own channel. Is I like to learn about all the different approaches, and sometimes you can apply things that work in one genre and then use it in a different genre because you wouldn't normally think about that. And so because you get the large catalog of videos, not just in terms of mixing, but also producing, like Olivia Rodrigo tracks or Jack Antonoff tracks, whatever he ends up producing, because you get that knowledge and insight, you really get the ability to learn so much and just learn a lot of different techniques from these top guys and girls in the industry. I think that's just incredibly valuable and is not really offered in as much depth in any other service. There's a large catalog. It's constantly updated. There's new mixes and videos coming out every month. So you don't have to worry about just buying it once and not getting access to anything. You get access to all the stuff that continue to release, I think, if you're on the second tier or higher in your subscription, which we're going to talk about here shortly. Now let's get into some of the cons of having to mix with the master subscription. As much as I enjoy it, there are a few downsides. So number one is going to be the price tag. It is a pretty expensive service. I think their second tier, pro tier, is now priced at about $319, which is a pretty steep, price, which is a pretty, big price tag for a mixing and mastering service for a small niche like this. So if you're on a bit of a budget, this just may not be accessible to you. They've added a more lower tier, which I think is $99 a year, where you get access to one new video every 3 months or something. Yeah, you don't get a lot out of that, and I'm glad that they've added a lower tier because a lot of people were struggling to, make the budgeting work for it. And so at least they get access to a few of the videos, but you really don't get the breadth that the course offers when you're at the lowest tier. And I think the highest tier has a bunch more benefits as well. And then they have even more expensive, like travel to workshops and things like that. But I think the tier most people are going to look at is that $319 tier, which, let's be honest, it's just not cheap, right? That's pretty expensive. Even if you look at other mixing services and courses, I think it's going to be more expensive than them. And then you have to renew it year after year if you want to keep watching the videos and using the service. So it's not a cheap service. It's something you're going to want to think about and think hard about before investing in. But if you find it to be worth it, go ahead. But, just know that it's not going to be a cheap endeavor for you to embark. Number two, or the second con of a Mix with the Master subscription, which kind of is tied to the first pro, is there's so much information in their service that it's actually tough to get through all of it. And I know that maybe not be a con for some people. Maybe you can just binge watch all of it and it's not a problem, or you're just going to get out what you want to get out of it. But I feel a bit overwhelmed every time I open up my app or something like that for Mix with the Masters, just how much stuff I just haven't watched and accessed yet. So you don't feel like you're getting everything out of it. So yes, it has a high price tag. You do get a lot of content. But again, it's a lot of content to work through. And sometimes it's tough for me to prioritize, what I'm going to watch and what I'm going to learn first, and it leaves you feeling a little bit left out. Like I said, this can maybe qualify as not being a con, but I think for a course or something where it's an online access thing, it can be helpful to have a more dedicated sort of outlet or funnel for you to watch. Like, you need to do this and do this, and you feel like you're getting what you need out of the content. It feels more like Mix with the Masters is like a Netflix streaming service where they just throw a bunch at you and you decide what you want to watch. So like I said, this may not really be a con, but for me, it felt a bit overwhelming to have just so much material at you that's tough for me to get through all of it in the 1 year that I have the subscription. And the third con, I would say, or this might be more of a mixed bag, is I didn't find the community overly helpful on Mix with the Masters. Granted, I didn't spend a ton of time on it, but I find that some of these community things and some of these apps or some of these other things can be intimidating for a lot of people if they don't feel like they're a professional, or they don't feel like that they've watched all the material given out so far. I just didn't find it all that useful. I'm sure there's some great people in there, but I tried navigating around it, trying to see what threads were there, and it didn't really appeal to me. That it just didn't seem to be much going on in the Mix with the Masters community thread. If you've had a different experience, leave a comment down below. Maybe it's been amazing for you, but it just didn't really work for me. It didn't really feel like I was getting a lot out of that, and so I didn't feel like that was a big benefit to having the Mix with the Masters subscription. A bonus or mix feature of having Mix with the Masters is the free plugin bundles and goodies that you get with Mix with the Masters. Now, you do get a lot of free plugins, but the caveat is that you're gonna have to download all these companies' different plugin installers, and then you only get access to a lot of the plugins as long as you have a Mix with the Masters subscription. So if you count on having a subscription for a long time, good for you. But if you get the subscription thinking you have all these plugins now, Well, think again, because if you only do 1 year of Mix with the Masters, then you're not gonna be able to have access to all those plugins, maybe used on previous sessions that you'd like to go back to, and now you can no longer activate the plugins. So it feels like a bit of a marketing ploy in a way, just to get companies to throw their plugins in your face so that you go, oh crap, I don't have my Mix with the Masters subscription anymore. Let me now buy the plugin or buy the year of the access or whatever. So maybe you love that. Maybe you loved, hey, I got a year to try out plugins. Maybe that's good for you. But for me, I like to keep things more minimalistic. Plugin companies really do a good job of getting their claws into you, making you pay monthly for things, and that kind of bothers me now in the industry a little bit. So you can consider that a pro or a con or a mixed bag, but you do get access to a lot of free stuff. There's a lot of great stuff for you to use in your sessions, which I think can be great. I think that can be used properly, but for me, it's almost like a bit of an annoyance, or I see it as almost a bit of a marketing ploy at this point, and I didn't find that to be a big appeal for me when I purchased the year-long subscription. So that's my experience with using Mix with the Masters for an entire year. I hope that was beneficial for you. Like I said, if you have Mix with the Masters, go ahead and leave a comment about your experiences, what you thought about my thoughts. And if you have any questions, if you're looking to purchase it, leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to engage with you on it. Thank you so much for watching. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.